Welcome to Journeys of Empowerment. I'm 𝗪𝗵𝘁. This is a place where we slow the pace and make room for conversations that reach beneath what we do into who we are becoming. Together with aspiring, impact-driven female founders, we explore the turning points, the inner shifts, and the moments that quietly change the direction of a life. Sometimes carrying everything alone stops feeling like strength, and something deeper begins asking to be trusted instead. If that's where life happens to meet you today, you're in good company. What if the biggest decisions in our lives aren't the ones we say yes to, but the moments we finally stop and ask ourselves, why? It's possible to build meaningful life with quietly losing sight of whether it's truly our own. In this episode, I sat down with Natália Leal, leadership advisor, coach, and former CEO of the World Fair Trade Organization, and someone who's discovered that achievement without awareness can slowly distance us from ourselves. We explored her lifelong desire to contribute and serve, how an international career unfolded through opportunities she rarely stopped to question, and the subtle cost of always being capable. We also talked about the wisdom our bodies carry when chronic attention becomes impossible to ignore, the difference between judgment and discernment, and what it means to move from obligation and performance toward conscious choice, responsibility, and agency. One thing Natalia shared stayed with me. Wisdom is knowing what is needed in this moment without judging. This stayed along with me. Sometimes the most important question we ask ourselves is, what do I really want? Listening to Natalia reminded me that awareness doesn't always arrive through dramatic change. Sometimes it begins with the courage to pause, listen, and choose your next step with intention instead of habit. Let's walk into it. Natalia, welcome to Journeys of Empowerment.
It's a pleasure to be here, Michiel, and I'm sure we'll have an exciting conversation that I hope those listening to us will also enjoy.
I hope so too. We briefly had a chat and about where we met for the first time, and it was at the Professional Women's Network event at International Women's Day, organized at 𝗿𝗵𝘁 and 𝗵𝗵𝘁 Bank in Amsterdam.
Yep.
And so you are you are a member of the Professional Women's Network?
I am.
All right.
We actually just had another event yesterday.
What was it?
Summer social event.
Summer social event.
And it has become one of my peer groups of reference in the Netherlands. In my profession, I often work alone with my clients. And so it's very important to have a group of people who understand where you come from professionally in terms of business, but which will not judge you, will not criticize you. Instead, will actually try to support you. Sometimes that means just listening. Sometimes even just opening doors or creating new projects together.
Professional Women's Network. We will put that also in the show notes.
Do it. I have nothing against promoting it. I don't make anything out of it, but I'm a supporter.
So before we dive into, well, let's say your journey, quite a journey you made, I always love to invite my guests to look at the future and by answering the question, who do you aspire to become? Take your 15 minutes.
I'm pretty sure this is not the easiest, the question with the easiest answer. But it is always one every now and then I also pose myself maybe in different forms. And I think it's important to have a sense of direction, to look ahead, not to live in the future, but to know your direction so that you feel that you're properly guided in your present. So who do I aspire to be in the future? I think especially a person that can share wisdom, which is not easy, because knowledge comes to me easy, but wisdom is very different. is knowing how to distinguish what is useful or not in a moment for you or for another person with whom you might be interacting or offering advice or guidance. And in a world where so much is going crazy, finding that wisdom is even harder. And finding true wisdom in the sense that it's not composed or restricted by society, but the wisdom that is a little bit more, let's say, universal, that feels, this feels true, this feels not true in terms of absolute truth, don't believe in that, but that this feels right in that specific moment for that person, whether it's me or somebody else.
What is for you a sort of definition of wisdom?
Well, it's maybe a little bit what I said, is being able to distinguish without judging. So the word that sometimes I use is applying discernment, but not judgment. And we often don't know the difference between these two words. But when we're judging something, we have a specific lens to interpret what is happening. We look at it as something that is right or wrong, that is good or bad. And for most of us, throughout our life, this is how we see everything in the world, through the lens of judgment. This is good for me, this is bad for me. What that person did to me was not right. What this should happen, it's always finding that...
either or?
Either or, a little bit, yes. Discernment is different. Discernment is acknowledging what is there, what happened. That some things maybe are not acceptable or appropriate. But separating also behavior from the quality and the worth of a person. I know that I've been in different paths. I haven't always been at my best. I rarely am at my best, but I like to think that I'm usually in a good
place.
In a good place. And so wisdom is being able to use both your experience, the experience that we can learn from others, what we just observe around the world, and make our choices based on it. Because for us, they resonate at the appropriate level. Not because somebody else is telling me that is right or wrong. You should or you should not do that. A person like you must go in this direction or must never do that. This is judgment. So I think my interpretation of wisdom goes in that direction of, and there's an inner guide, but it has to be very honest in stripping itself out of the constraints that we've accumulated throughout our life, of the rules, of the norms that we carry with us about judging the world, especially others, and quite often ourselves as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
This realization and this wisdom you just shared didn't come overnight.
No, definitely not. And it's not here yet. You can never say, today I'm wise enough, I stop. No. It's an accumulation of experiences, but I also don't believe you need to live everything yourself.
I believe that we don't have wisdom. We become wiser if we allow ourselves to. And but you never have wisdom.
Yeah. It's not a state.
No.
It is a path.
A journey.
It's a journey, yes. It's a journey of growth, learning. And I think it only works if there is sharing. Because if you're wise for yourself, but nobody else benefits from what you learn, then what's the point? And you have nothing to leave to others. So we all care about a sense of legacy, a sense of impact in one way or another. And that wisdom, I think, is part of the things I would like to leave. One person or two would say, Natalia had a good life. A few years ago, she told me something that really
resonated with her.
It really touched me. In that moment, it was a click, or it helped me understand something else about myself or the world. I'd be happy with that.
Wow. Let's share our central theme of today.
Yep.
And the central theme is from performance to agency.
Yes.
Before we dive into what you're doing right now, also let's deconstruct agency. What do you mean by agency? What is in your vision agency?
Trying to avoid my nerd tendency, which would go, oh, the academic definition. No, doesn't matter. But agency is taking both the power and assuming the responsibility of the consequences from the choices you make. And this does not mean you have full control about the things that happen to you, but you do have a power and a responsibility to choose how you react to them. Even if part of that has been pre-constructed in terms of your present. It's already been built in your past through your circumstances, partially through genetics, especially through your experiences in childhood. But agency is saying, no, whatever I got from my past, whatever I inherited, now my life, my future, it's my responsibility. I have the power to act. So agency in terms of acting, taking action, which doesn't mean permanent movement, or it can be just acceptance. It can be moments of stillness, but it's saying this is happening because I chose. Or as a result of my choices.
Okay, let's dive into where you are right now, 2026. So, Natalia, 2026. Who is benefiting the most working with you right now? Because that changed over time. But who's benefiting the most and in what way?
It sounds like an unfair question because you should be asking those in contact with me. So partially you're asking me to judge. I will take the challenge, but with a disclaimer that I could be wrong. My interpretation of what is happening could be wrong. But I think there may be a couple of levels there. And I think in my work is where I really enjoy doing this. So as a coach, when I work with my clients, I try to be very honest in that I am not there to provoke any change, but I do want to create the space where they feel safe to explore their options. And quite often that means many of my clients have this chance of getting to the awakening moment of saying, oh, wait, I think I've arrived here by choices that were not mine. But now I have an option to look at the future and to also experience the present from a totally different perspective. So I hope, I know a few are, from testimonials, from conversations. I hope most of those clients are also benefiting from it. But not everyone is also in a state where they are ready. They need their time. They have their own other priorities in life, and I'm not there to judge that. But for the ones who come, and you almost pre-sense, I think that person might be ready. You create the circumstances, and then you see what happens.
If you say already, how do you feel when someone is ready to receive the sort of guidance you give?
What do you mean? How do I feel?
How do you now in scientifically? Yeah, you would say, how do we determine based on what criteria? But it's not about criteria or whatever. But when do you know someone is ready to receive or to work with you?
So there are maybe two questions in there: whether they're ready to work with me and whether they're ready to work with certain topics or at certain levels. And usually I do have a screening process with some people. We know there's initially also a chemistry that may or may not be there. Most of the time it's okay. There's a screening in terms of the topics, what people want to discuss. And there are topics in which I feel competent and perfectly capable of supporting, and others in which I need to honestly say that is outside of my field of expertise. And either I advise clients to go in a different direction or to look for extra support. Let's say that's more of a technical screening. But then I am quite open also in terms of what type of support I offer. I always call myself a career and life coach. It can be life and career. But most people tend to choose one or the other, and I don't see how you can separate them.
Did you learn that over time, or is it already your vision for as long as you are in your working career, that those are together and not separate?
In that sense, it is a vision. You cannot separate. However, what you define, what is a career, what is work, can be very different for different people in different moments of their life. But let's say usually we talk about life in terms of our personal and private domain, individual and with those who are closest to us, and career more in the work sphere, the public domain, how we interact with the larger world. And you cannot be fully satisfied and happy with one if the other is suffering. Or worse, if one domain is competing and taking away from the other, which happens quite frequently. So you need to be mindful about how do I build synergies between them? How am I mindful enough that in order to be successful, to perform, I'm not sacrificing, for example, my personal life. I am at the top of my career. I'm the president of a company, the owner, whatever. I made millions and whatever. But when I go home, I feel miserable. I wouldn't say feel alone. If you feel lonely, that is an issue. But for me, being alone is also perfectly fine, as well as you're happy with that condition.
Yeah, there's a difference between solitude and loneliness.
Yep, exactly.
And I really love solitude. And I believe no one loves loneliness, right?
Exactly. Extroverts might appreciate solitude a little bit less. They need the group, they need the energy of the close ones to feel that they're even relaxing. But you might be, I'm guessing now, but you might be a little bit more like me. I'm in the middle of the introvert-extrovert spectrum.
Well, very good, very interesting observation, because I truly discovered that while reading the book Susan 𝗿𝗏. And there was a questionnaire in it, and I followed all the questions. And although I come across at events as very extroverted, I grab the microphone, I'm very outgoing, high in my energy, I crave, as we all do in humanity, connection, yet I need to balance that with also solitude and much more. I'm much more an introvert as you would at first. So it's interesting that you observe that.
It's exactly the same situation.
Yeah.
I have no problem if you ask me to do public speaking, but I need my private time.
Yeah, me too.
I need my rest. I need to be a little bit with my own thoughts. Just even sometimes, this is something recent, but just even being with my body, saying, how am I feeling now? Which is something I would have never asked in the first part of my life. But, the act of gratitude, acceptance, I think they require a little bit of solitude.
That's a big concept also, acceptance.
Yes, and gratitude.
And gratitude.
We can appreciate what we're doing in the moment with other people, but I think true gratitude requires almost a mental acknowledgement that is say, I am grateful for that. And if you're distracted by others, I'm not sure if that moment comes so easily. For me, it does not. No,
for me neither. Really thinking space. Just also let some things that you heard on an event or in a conversation that you had linger a little bit in your back of your mind, and not getting distracted by too many inputs again and again and again. For me, then it's overload, and I'm like, error system 101 and shut down.
Yes.
You've mentioned So the first part of your life. Let's go to the first part of your life, because what you're doing right now is not how you started your professional career, right?
No.
So let's go to the first part of your life. Upbringing, but also education. How was that? How was growing up as Natalia?
Okay. How long can we have in the podcast?
Oh, that doesn't matter. We can go on for hours.
I think I had overall a happy childhood. I would say traditional. It doesn't mean perfect. My parents for a while lived apart for pure professional reasons. They had work in cities that were so far apart that back then that commuting would not make sense. So I had a period where I lived with my mother. I had a period where I lived with my father. We would always meet on the weekends. So it, in that sense, was less common than some other families. But I think from the moment I was teenage years, and it became more typical. And if you look at, I don't know, the categories in school, I was definitely on the nerd side. I was the student taking good grades. But I still had a social element with. I was never the popular girl. Even back then I didn't care about it. But looking back at it from today, I do remember being appreciative that some of the other kids also interacted and connected with me. Mm-hmm. So I obviously had my friends, my nerd group. I have friends from that time until today. We meet at least once per year. I don't want to do the math, but so truly long-term friends. But even with others back then, I thought, no, they still came to the nerd girl to have a conversation. They still wanted something. And I think partially is because inherently I care obviously about myself, but I also cared about a sense of fairness and a sense of representativeness. And from very early on, I think from the very first years in school where this happened, there used to be like whatever, a class, a class representative or something like that. There was the president or the representative and the vice, the person, the second with the charge, with the role. Throughout, from basic school to the end of university, I always had some role with my class.
Where do you believe that comes from?
It's part of offering service. I do want to make things better, serve others. It was a curiosity also of what else do they want? What is different from me that they want? But I think it was also the fact, the extrovert part of me made it easier also to come back and verbalize some of these things, even to those perceived to be sort of in power or authority, whether it was a teacher or the head of the school or something like that. Whereas others would be more shy and maybe hesitate in saying some things. I'm like, no, this is the forum. It doesn't mean that I was always speaking out. I still measure my moments. I measure what to say. But I would look for... Let me re-say this in a different way. I think I enjoyed understanding what was the game. What are the rules of the game? And how do I make it work for me and those I care about? So even in school, there are a series of rules within the class, implicit, explicit. The rules has also, the school has a list of rules. Do this, don't do that. Whatever is a code of conduct and things like that. And I loved, almost in a legal way, and there was a moment when my mother was very disappointed that I did not go into law. But understanding to the different sides. What do they want? What do the others want? How do we make things come to a sort of better solution? I don't want to call it compromise. Usually we take that word as something, as losing something, but a new, better solution.
A sort of win-win.
Yes. And if you jump to today, it's still that. Where's the win-win? Where do we grow together, not sacrificing your personal or your career, but where do things build on each other?
You also mentioned fairness.
Yes. And so if you want an episode, I was average height, which for a girl means usually much smaller than boys at that age, right? We tend to grow up a bit later. But being the representative and other things, I remember once I had a foot in a plaster, in a cast. And a boy tried to jump in the canteen line. And he was probably close to twice my height. He was one of the seniors in the school. I was thought my responsibility on that day, I was supposed to monitor the line. Simple task, but okay. I spotted the boy twice my size going in and said, no, no, no. And of course he was stronger than me. He said he was trying to push me away. I said, no, but it's my responsibility on behalf of everyone else in this line to make it right. And I ended up breaking the cast and having to put a new one.
No.
I'm not proud of having hit the boy.
Well, you're not proud, but you're smiling at least a little bit proud, right?
I think the value behind it was right. The method might have been a little bit too violent.
Questionable.
It was definitely physical. But it's an expression almost in an anecdote sense of back then how far I would go. I think now with maturity, you still see things, but you also see the nuances. Back then, you're either right or you're wrong. And so you're wrong, jumping the line, so I'm going to take you out. That was the solution.
I'm going to take you
out. Size was irrelevant.
Yeah, clearly.
But it's just an example. And I think fairness is also traveled through my life a little bit, taking different forms, but it traveled all the way to my previous, still the last job I've had, which was in fair trade. And it felt it resonated very much with me. It was very easy to understand what was happening. But here we were going from the interaction between two people in a school, children, not even teenager at the time, I think, to talking about society in world fair and an unfairness. So
that's a biggie.
Different scales, but it still resonates. And I think now maybe there's a part of also fairness with yourself. That's a part that I've only discovered more recently. We easily look at others and judge others. So fairness is a lens for judgment as well. But we are often so unfair with ourselves. We're so harsh. We bring on guilt, shame, unnecessarily. I'm not saying these emotions are always unnecessary. No. I value unpleasant emotions. But it sounds like we almost take pride in holding on to them sometimes. And for that, I am a little sad. But I've been there, so.
Yeah, let's go into that, because that makes me, I believe also the listener, very curious. Where does that come from, and what kind of experience did you have that made you realize, okay, I am unfair to myself? When was the first time that you started feeling that?
I'm not sure I can spot a first time now, but maybe the first time I'm aware of at a more rational level. And I think it started with a suspicion something is wrong, not yet knowing, not being able to phrase it or to know what it was, but the feeling something is not right. And that came in my past job as chief executive. I was maybe already into it, I'm going to say 3 years at least into it. And I remember going on holidays, having relatively nice holidays, I thought, back then, coming back, and the first day back at work just thinking, I am so exhausted and tired, I need holidays. Not just as an expression that as we sometimes, of course, we would want to have more holidays sometimes, but as in physically and mentally, I thought I had just taken holidays, but somehow I'm not recovered and rested. And it took me, I think, at least 2 cycles of holidays. The first one you said, okay, something happened. The next ones will fix it. And then you go on the next holidays and wait, it's still the same thing. What, am I starting to see a pattern? And then you start asking yourself, what's happening? And that, I think, was the first time I questioned almost my entire path. How did I come here? How did I arrive at this situation where, in theory, I'm excelling professionally, but somehow I'm tired too often? And I can no longer find how to restore that energy. The techniques I was using before are not working.
What do you mean by techniques?
Just going on holidays. Or doing some activity you enjoyed, or a little bit of time with friends.
So focusing on relaxation, but it didn't relax you.
What I thought was relaxation back then, they were still very much either mental or sometimes activities still very engaging. Going on holidays, but doing a bunch of stuff.
It's about the doing.
Yes.
Doing.
You go on holidays, but you don't disconnect. I would still check my email. I had a very reliable team of colleagues in the office. But I was still checking. I hope that person didn't forget that. And I can say most of the time they were spot on. They were there. But my mind was still worried. And the inability to disconnect and not even realizing I was not doing it, I think it's what drove me there to this sense of not yet the realization, but the sense that, perhaps I didn't disconnect enough. That's when I started asking, what did I do differently in these holidays that wasn't typical in the past? And I never fully disconnected before, but as chief executive, you kind of carry the responsibility around. I don't want the building to fall while I'm away. And I was always on. Always on.
That comes with a cost.
So the holidays were never restful, never. So by the time I got to the third year of holidays, there was an accumulation of lack of rest. If I can say that. And it was a tip a little bit when you get the drop that kind of made things, wait, it's too much. Something here is really not right.
Did you become aware yourself, or did you have a coach or mentor at that moment? What helped you? That realization? Or was it just a hard lived experience of something is not feeling right?
I think it was first and foremost a personal realization with the help, for example, of others. Like by that time, I think I was going for physiotherapy sessions very regularly for at least 1 year. And it's like, well, usually you go for a few and whatever is the problem is fixed, right? Or you do some exercises home and you start feeling better. But every time I would come back, it felt like after the session I was feeling better. But 2 weeks later, I was again. Something was wrong. And what was wrong, I mean, very typical for people in a position like I have. Obviously, extreme tension in your shoulders and neck. And having the instruction of just relax here, just relax. And not mentally, I understand the instruction, but my body had no idea, what do you mean? Tell me, what am I supposed to do? Where's the button to relax?
What is the process?
Exactly. Draw it to me almost. It's from the side, the nerd side wanted the instructions, the step by step. And my physiotherapist was amazing. I usually said it was a love-hate relationship because in the moment it was not easy. The day afterwards it was still a little bit sore and painful. But then the next few days, 5 or 6, would be, oh my God.
Relief.
Now I'm relieved. But then I would put the pressure back on so quickly. And so that painful, physically painful neck, shoulders, stiffness, that was very clear, like, okay, maybe something here is wrong. And it's becoming systemic. It's not, I twisted my neck or something, or I slept poorly. This is not getting fixed. So that part was very clear. It's like it was the first time I paid attention to my body. And I think basically I had to go to the point where my body had to scream out loud. It started, I had little things before, and it was like, hey, you push through, keep going. And my body obviously had to react. I'm telling you to watch out for these and you're not paying attention. I'm going to give you a stronger sign. Still not paying attention. Here's a stronger one.
when the body says no, right?
Yes, the body is saying rest, relax, you need to stop to this. But between not paying attention and not knowing how to do it, it got to a point where it was physically very painful. So there were periods with some medication, between light medication, paracetamol and other stuff. But at the point where you need medication regularly, it's like, this shouldn't be the way. So that was very much by myself. But I think there was a moment also where the board of directors in my previous organization was also very open to supporting me. They realized I was overworking, but they were themselves good-hearted people, but without the knowledge to support me directly.
So the intention was there, but no toolbox.
Yes, they don't know how to help me. They didn't know how to help themselves. They were probably doing some of them were doing the same mistakes in their own jobs, right? So there's good intentions, but lack of proper knowledge about how to do it. And so there was a moment, a bit too late, but never mind, where I had a conversation. I think the agreement was to have 4 or 5 conversations with a consultant we had been working with, who also had some coaching skills. And in the end, I had a first conversation with him. We sat together, I'm going to say, for about 1 hour. And he asked me a couple of questions that in the moment, what I already sensed and was painfully present, it's a moment when the coin drops and like, oh. Because now I had the language to understand what was happening to me.
That helps a lot, right?
And that helped a lot.
What was the specific language that helped you?
It was putting things into perspective. I was living in high tension every moment, extremely anxious about the future. But he did what I know is one of the simplest, in a sense, but most powerful exercises, which you started by asking me, who do I want to become? He just asked me, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And in that moment, I just knew, well, not in this company, not in this. It was just so obvious. Obviously, the exercise had different dimensions. We touched a couple of other details. But that realization meant, what am I doing here, pushing myself beyond the limit? When this is not my longer-term future path.
Great question. Did you have right away the answer? Did you allow yourself the answer to pop up and act on it?
The answer popped up there. I think I needed some time to accept it. I needed some time to start deconstructing that idea that my value was based on performance, and performance also based then on professional status. Because in the moment where you realize that my professional future is not here, the answer is obvious that, okay, you need to change. In whatever way it happens, it has to change. So somehow I had to move away from that organization. But it was hard to be in a situation where you have this nice title of chief executive. And I'm not too attached to it personally.
Not anymore or not?
Not even back then. I think I cared more about what other people thought about it. Like my parents as well. I valued the opinion of my parents. And I knew they were proud of telling their friends, my daughter is a chief executive. And so losing the title for me was like, okay. But it meant, wait, am I going to disappoint my parents? And that goes back to the childhood where I was always trying to perform to satisfy them. I never felt like love was withheld or anything like that, but I was definitely compensated for performing, financially compensated. And so without being aware, what my parents did is it was not their intention either. I know that clearly today as well. They just wanted to encourage me, to motivate me. But what they created instead of a motivation was more like a carrot saying, you want to eat? You got to perform. And so bringing this back to today, there was, for the first time, I need to move away. But I'm going to lose the title, probably. And it took me not too long, but probably at least a week to say, I do need to move away. Whatever comes next, it has to be something else. It took me maybe 2 weeks, I think. I cannot precise the dates anymore, but I'm going to say about 2 weeks to actually just write a resignation letter and send it in. But at that moment, it became clear that the solution, I could try to fix things within the organization. I was confident enough that if I wanted, I could try to make things better inside.
Yeah, but at what cost?
But exactly. And if the path in the future was not there anyway, then what's the point? Just go and start somewhere else already. And so I resigned, and remember in that moment, an extreme sense of relief.
Already when you were
Breathing
writing
out.
the letter?
When I sent it out. Because that was a statement. I was not asking for permission.
No.
So I was just saying, I'm going. So the moment that the submit button was pushed, I think maybe for the first time my body realized what was relaxing.
Oh, wow.
Letting go. I did one mistake. Life isn't perfect. Because I was a chief executive and there was a very big event coming up later in that year. I felt I cannot just move away and drop everything from this organization. I haven't burned out yet, so I have the responsibility to hold it. And so I said, I'm quitting, but I'm quitting at the end of the year. And that meant like 5 months away. So I had the immediate relief. I went on holidays after that. They were already planned. Really nice holidays. And when I came back, the other shoe fell, meaning, oh crap, now I need to work in this organization for 3.5 more months.
Whilst,
I've already decided
you're already on your way out,
that this
right?
is not, exactly. So
and then for a big event, so you have to be there even more and more
big event
invested.
being organized in India with 300 people. The event happened. It went well. We were there. But it was tough, that final period. It was a little bit of a bittersweet moment. The relief of saying I'm disconnecting, and then realizing, oh, wait, I need to reconnect for a bit longer.
Still 5 months to go.
Yeah. And I didn't know yet back then to do anything else apart from what had been my default behavior until then. So you go back into all the poor habits. Yeah. I didn't give myself then the space to, how could I do this differently?
Natalia, please forgive me, but I have a question for you. And the question is, I hear a sense of judgment in what you just said when you said, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
And what is the mistake you made, in your opinion?
It was a mistake, but a mistake, it's part of our lives. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes as long as we learn from it, and I hope I've learned from this one. The mistake was putting my sense of responsibility for others above my own well-being.
That's a deep one.
Yes, because until then, as we said partially, as we said very clearly, I was very focused on the external validation. And so once again, in that moment, I was still prioritizing other people's needs.
At the cost of your
cost
own
of
well-being.
Because I knew it. My father is a medical doctor, so I have some maybe it's slightly more insights into it than the common person. And I knew I was very, very close to a burnout.
All the signals were there.
All the signals were there.
And were ignored or pushed away.
They were pushed away. In that moment, for a while, they were ignored. For a while, I didn't put the puzzle together. But there was a moment where I knew, if you don't watch out, it's coming.
What is for you the most important signal you will never ignore anymore to prevent that you're getting in the same sort of situation? What is the one signal?
It's a really tough one and a really powerful one. It's getting stuck on automatic pilot. And it's tough because the automatic pilot usually comes naturally, whatever it's already yours.
Automatic pilot, you mean your default state?
Default, yes, exactly. Whatever is your default setting until that moment. And not creating the pauses to ask, is the autopilot serving me now or not?
We
need autopilot.
Not too fast.
Yeah.
Is the autopilot serving now or not?
Yeah.
That's
because we need autopilots.
Of course.
But if we're always on autopilot, then we're not allowing ourselves the space to make new choices.
And grow.
To correct the path. To incorporate new learning and grow in different directions. Just because I set a path for a journeying in one specific direction doesn't mean I cannot change my mind halfway through. It's my journey. I don't need to, today I can say, I don't need to answer to anybody else about the detours I make in my life or about totally changing the direction. I choose it, I take it. What others think about it is in the words of, I believe, Eleanor Roosevelt, what other people think about me is their business. Their business, not mine.
True that. I love that. For me, the mantra is very simple. Extreme self-care without being selfish. Extreme self-care without being selfish.
If you take, I like to actually use the word selfish, even to be a bit provocative with other people. We think that selfish is always a bad word. No, you can be selfish if it is about putting yourself first and protecting yourself. The airplane mantra of put your mask on first.
Oxygen mask, first.
But what I would say, not at the expense of, I need to hesitate here, but of hurting other people. But sometimes your well-being does require hurting other people.
Hurting other people or disappointing?
It can be one or the other, but it's not. Where's the difference? It's not. You're not intention. There's no intention.
No.
That's it. Yeah.
Deliberately intentional.
You're not doing things to hurt other people. It's just I am sorry, but to take care of myself, this needs to get done, and I'm sorry if there are side consequences. But we deserve it, not to the point of physically hurting anyone, never. But yeah, if you need to disappoint someone, you disappoint someone. It could be hurting in the sense of, for example, a partnership or a relationship. Yes, hearts can get broken, but sometimes that's the way it has to be. How do you avoid that? So there could be suffering involved, mental or physical. But it's unavoidable in that sense.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I'm in the middle of a divorce right now.
Yep.
So, and I chose for new love.
Yep.
And of course, that comes with hurtful in my existing relationship. So, if she's listening to this episode, I'm very, very sorry, but I chose for new love. And so I can relate to what you've just mentioned.
And
but now here comes an interesting moment, because you said writing that letter and sending that letter, that resignation letter, gave you a sense of relief. Yet you also had to tell it to your first ring of friends and family. How did that go?
I think from their side, trying to remember now, my friends were maybe a little bit surprised in the moment. I don't think anyone was expecting that. And one thing I haven't mentioned yet is that, of course, I was not sharing all the signals and the private suffering that I was going through with anyone else.
Surprise. No,
it was the lone sufferer. I would go home and be exhausted. Nobody would know, because in public, I was fully 100% there, right? So to a certain extent, it came as a surprise. But I cannot say anything about my friends judging me. They were like, oh, really? What happened? It was more from the sense of curiosity. I had to, and I'm not sure if it justified, but explain. I had to explain the choice to my parents.
How was that?
Challenging from my side. I think they took a while to understand, and I can value them for maybe having accepted it before they could understand it themselves. Because according to their own framework about the world, that made no sense. But they also trusted very much in me as a person. I think they never doubted how mature I was, how cautious I was in life, that I was...
and it didn't came overnight. It was a really
exactly
well thought.
They thought my daughter is not crazy. So if she did this, we cannot fully understand yet why, but we trust the reasons were there. But I think from them, it's obviously hard to... But now you're here, and it's like you're going backwards. And there was an associated part with that, because when... Trying to remember the timeline, but it was soon after... Or during my holidays, I think, after resigning. So after sending in the resignation.
Yeah. Then you still had to go 5 months.
Yes. Yeah. Or maybe it was right after I came back from that I made one wise decision. So I made a mistake, but I also made one wise decision, which was I am not going to jump immediately into looking for the next job. I know I'm going to be out of a job from this date. I'm not going to look for a job for the following working day. I'm tired. Therefore, I am going to give myself the space to rest. I'm going to figure out how to make these holidays work. The holidays that were not working.
Giving yourself permission.
Exactly. And that was the first time I actually gave permission not to perform, because what do you mean you're going to be without a job? For how long? How do you know? But if you don't look for a job now, because I had more than 3 months ahead of me, I could already be actively looking for what comes next and find something even better. Saying that I wouldn't do that felt like I was missing out. Not for me, for other people, it felt like I was missing out on opportunities. I'm playing with fate. But no, that was when I consciously said, no, I need to rest. I'm going to give myself what I couldn't create before.
And did you give yourself a timeline, or just I needed... You did.
I created both a bottom and an upper limit.
Baseline and a worst case, base case.
Sort of. I had to tell myself, I had to commit not to look for a job. And I said back then, at least 3 months. You don't look at any vacancy. You don't send any CV. I'm forbidding myself. Permission was to forbid myself from worrying about it.
You're almost looking proud.
Yes. Was saying...
Did you succeed in it minimum 3 months? Yeah?
I very much, because the upper limit I had given myself is, depending on how it feels, because I decided 3 months before that period started, the sabbatical period started, I can go up to 6 months if I feel like it. Turns out it was very easy to go up to 6 months. But I also used that period for other things and for reflection, obviously. Asking those questions, what do I actually want to do for the very first time?
That's a powerful one.
Yes.
What do you actually want to do?
But having already lived abroad for quite a while at that time, I also reconnected with friends. I remember friends and family, even family in Portugal that was a little bit spread over the country. And I picked up a car. Well, I borrowed a car, never mind. And I think I spent 2 weeks going a little bit around the country and seeing my uncles and my cousins, which I haven't seen in maybe 5 to 10 years at the time. Said, hey, here I am again. Oh my God, you're all grown up. Reconnecting with things that I had left behind, also geographically, not intentionally.
Which country are we talking about then?
So in this case, family was all in Portugal.
Yeah.
But I did a similar thing then also in Belgium and in the UK, which is where I had most of my friends.
Friends. Yeah.
The close friends, the friends that were relevant in that moment. And so I also kind of did a tour. Friends you had from university, from the moment when I did my PhD, living together, close by. By that time, they were already a little bit spread around the country. But I picked up the car, 2 or 3 days here, 2 or 3 days there. And I visited, I think, basically everyone who at least was there at the time.
What did you discover about yourself in that? Is that in a period of 6 months sabbatical?
Yes.
What did you discover about yourself in that period of time?
I think one really positive thing was realizing, first, my friends were very happy that I was there. But that for them, it was almost a non-issue that I had quit. They just wanted to be with me, to see how I was doing, how I was feeling. Whatever I wanted to do in my career, they were like, keep me informed, but we don't care. So they were not judging me by that. I had been carrying that self-judgment of self-worth equals performance, status, career, upward direction.
And assuming that they...
my parents do carry it. That's not projected. But I thought more people were doing that. And indeed, my friends were like, oh, okay. It's like...
whatever makes you happy.
Exactly. They were more... just keep me informed. And that also reinforced my permission to, so I can choose whatever I want next. I'm not going to lose friends. Friendships are not going to go away or whatever. But I do need to choose. They are not going to choose for me. I did not ask for advice. It was just about reconnecting, going back to stories and building new moments in those short visits. I think it was also starting to value relationships above, or let's call it personal relationships above professional ones.
Okay.
Understanding that your social network, you can have friends at work, but especially in the Netherlands, that is probably not the case. And it's the other network that matters.
Your tribe.
The other network, my tribe, yeah. And whatever happens, I know some of these people, we've been living different countries now, depending on which ones, for 12, 15 years. But if I want to knock on their door, they'll offer me a bed, and
they just one phone call away.
Yeah. And trusting that distance and even time is not going to dramatically change the relationship. We will grow, we will change, but there's a shared experience there that provides a shared understanding for whatever is happening as well. So I think that period was basically the benefits was understanding, I've been assuming things that are not truth, and I've never checked if they were or not. And
that build a construct in and on itself in our head, in our mind, right?
Yeah. And that helps starting the whole deconstruction as well. Why was I running and living my life this way, assuming this was true, without ever checking? Why did I even... We do receive these messages. I didn't make them up. But there's too much we hear on, I don't know, on the universal
level?
Waves. Yes. Social media and things. People act like this. People think like that. We should do this. We shouldn't do that. But we never ask those who care. Yeah. Do you think like that? Do you care about that? And it turns out, depending on the topic, of course, but most of the times like, oh no, I don't care.
And you didn't go back into corporate life or NGO life, or so what did you choose? And how did that decision come to you?
Yeah. The sabbatical period was essential for that, in that leaving time according to my own schedule left a very sweet taste in my mouth. It's like, I could create something in which I decide how to spend my time, in which I can actually decide, hey, it doesn't need to be 9 to 5. I don't even need to be an employee. And so slowly I started deconstructing all of these layers that we usually carry almost unconsciously, and starting saying, which ones of these do I really care about? Which ones, they're meaningful enough. I like it, let's continue, but which ones do I want to let go? And maybe which new ones, totally new for me, do I want to bring in? And that was exciting and scary. Obviously, that's in a sense of, what's stupid, but I've never done this before.
What helped you with the exploration then? Did you do that on your own, or did you read books? Are there some books that you read, or what helped you? Because it sounds like an exciting exploration, yet...
Today, I will call it the period of self-coaching. Mm-hmm. Because back then, my idea of coaching was extremely limited. I did not know there was such a wide coaching community, that are coaches everywhere, in a sense. Like, oh, really? I had not heard the word coaching apart from the association with sports. But I ended up I'm fairly organized and disciplined most of the time. I like to put in some disorganized or organized chaos as well. But at a certain point I felt, okay, so what are the steps that I need? How do I find a path through all of these? So first, the initial, probably the 3 months, was I just gave myself a period to do nothing there was no plan. Whatever feels like in the moment, I will go with it. But then I did, okay, at some point, you got to start thinking about what comes next. And yes, a lot of reading. The nerd side still loves to read and paper books, if possible. And it's funny how some books come to you also in the right moment. It's like, oh my God, now I see the light.
Can you mention that book?
Well, the first one and strongest one was, The 7 Principles of Highly Effective People from, Steve Covey.
Yeah. Keep the soul sharp.
It was already...
Begin with the end in
It was
mind.
20, 25 years old back then.
Yeah, but it's already still contemporary.
Like, this feels perfectly current. And it is a coaching journey, inviting you to think about what's the future, what do you want. Today, in almost all my workshops, I use this expression of begin with the end in mind, which is what we did in this conversation as well. And so I did that. I had to define by myself,
if you're on your own funeral, what would you love people to say?
Yes, but also just the different steps 10 years from now.
Reverse engineering.
The 5 years. Yeah, exactly. The whole reverse engineering to how would I like to be remembered to what do I need to do in the next year.
Before we dive in, we move further, how do you want to be remembered?
I think it comes back to that wisdom part that we were talking about before. When I was younger, I'm not saying the ambition, but there were moments when I thought I will change the world. And it comes from maybe 2 elements in particular. One, I still am very fond of negotiation and mediation. Back then it was framed within an international context. And so it meant I'm going to solve the Arab conflict. I was like, one day I will figure out how to solve all these. And another thing that, another anecdote, I had a very cherished maths professor in high school. And several years later, we had a reunion dinner with my class and a few of those teachers. And in that dinner, she said something that stuck with me until today, which is, I always thought Natalia, one day she will become the first female president of the Republic in Portugal.
Okay.
And at that moment I was a bit like, huh? But immediately I said, I could. I really said, I could. I didn't think that was crazy or anything. It had not occurred to me at that point. But I really, I trusted in my ability in that sense. But I think what changed in the meantime was between I could and do I want to? And that's a very big difference. I could still be a president of a republic in Portugal. It's going to be tougher now that I've been living abroad for a few years. And choosing what matters for you in different moments of your life. And back then that made sense. It was a reasonable, even feasible dream.
Would it be, do you believe that it was about validation?
No, it was about that impact. I am capable enough to create an impact in my country or make the life better for the citizens of this country. I'm smart enough to figure out how to live things better. So the impact goes back to what we almost all say, and it sounds cliche, but I think deep within it's what we all want. Leave the world at least a little bit better. What has changed is from my focusing being on the whole world to saying, I don't need to change the whole world, but I can change the world for a few people. And so I went from focusing on very big politics and worldwide issues. I came also through my training. I went from international relations to sociology, where I focus more in group dynamics and behavior. And now I'm very focused in psychology, which is more at the individual level. And the difference is that the impact you can have with an individual can have more long-term effects, but you can also see it up close and much faster. Changing the world is very slow. It might be very meaningful, obviously, but you need a huge team, and you probably make an impact through that person, and because you help that person, they go on. I definitely believe in this network effect. But it is more rewarding, almost in a selfish way, to say, I saw how what I said changed the expression in that person's
moment
face.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. And that is extremely rewarding. Whatever they go and do with it next, it's up to them. So again, I'm not imposing things, but when you see the haha moment, it's like, they got it. They got it. They've awakened. They can never go back. Exactly.
No.
They can never go back. Now they will have the power to make their choices.
So, in your work, what are you aiming for together with your clients? What would you love to?
I will divide that into a longer term question and a shorter one. Because I think long term, what really fascinates me is understanding how we humans are constructed and how we can reconstruct that in ways that make us feel happier individually and as a society. And so there's a part about human behavior. If anything with behavioral sciences, neurosciences, psychology, you can get me talking for hours. Or also especially listening. Let me learn about it. I devour that type of information, those books. Oh, really? This is true? But that means that now I can go to my clients and do this and that. And I love when I feel that also then the work I actually do more face-to-face with my clients is grounded at the very minimum evidence base, which means we've already collected some proof that things seem to work this way, but ideally scientifically already tested. It's like we've already followed the process.
Yes.
Science is not the truth, but is the best we can have at this moment. So being a nerd, I fully respect those who work from a perspective of spirituality, faith, belief, extremely important. But I use all of that based on the scientific evidence for it. I believe in faith because I know what's the scientific underpinning for it. Mm-hmm. And so I think anything that helps me in this area, make an impact in this area, I would be very excited to be related to it. Not all of it, but making choices. So coaching is part of choices that I've done so far. Coaching and training, and it's very important to talk about both. But I can see myself being a researcher in this area, discovering new knowledge, new tools, new solutions.
The nerdy
The nerdy me would love that. I can even see myself, if it exists, it's possible, but I don't know if it exists. I don't know. Going back to being an employee in a company that really has an honest mission and values related to that. But going back on my own terms.
In what role? In what sort of role?
I'm not determining the role. It has to be, I need to feel that I still make a difference in a similar role. But it could be me as a sort of a consultant coaching role within a larger company.
Is it then primarily focused on personal development?
No. So I can see myself acting more as a corporate level and okay, let's come in as an advisor for a whole corporation. How we do change a team culture so that everyone, performs better, but especially that they feel better. Because we tend to measure performance only by outputs, by how many hours you spend sometimes.
Unfortunately, still we do.
And so helping the groups that matter in our society reinterpret that, I would be happy with all of that. But I will make my choices, as I said, so I will be careful. No, not all of it, but one thing at a time. Right now, I think the impact with my clients, as I was saying, coaching and training, they really complement me and who I am right now. In coaching, my opinions, my preferences, what I think about the situation are irrelevant. I am not there to judge my clients. I am not there to advise them, much less to pretend to be a mentor. So I am there to assure them that first, they are not alone on their challenge and their journey. Second, as a sounding board, help them a little bit, almost like a conversation, not what we're doing right now exactly, but, hey, what I heard you say right now, I think was this. Is this correct? Is this what that really means for you? And so they're sending back a message, sometimes in other words, sometimes in their own words. So they listen to themselves, to what they just
recognizable.
said.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then offering them the tools. Because they've never had a journey like these. And it's like, oh, I'd like to explore options, but I don't even know where to start. Or I don't know. Or I now have options, but oh my God, how do I decide? How do I choose among them? And that's where I come in with my toolbox. Whether the toolbox is a question or an exercise or a template I might have developed. And make them feel safe in their exploration of their own path. So they need to really find what resonates with you. You need to be willing to be vulnerable. Kind of now I just remember Brené Brown, but you need to let your barriers down. You need to let your assumptions go. You need to let your previous path become something flexible. Like, could be still the past one, could be something different.
Easier said than done.
Easier said than done. But you for sure cannot do it if you feel judged, if you feel unsafe, if you feel I'm going to try it and fail because I don't have any type of support network. And that's my role in saying, I'm here for you. Don't worry. You want to explore it. You get stuck, I'll have something to get you unstuck.
Sort of companion on the journey, right?
It is. I call myself, when I use the journey metaphor, I say I'm a travel companion. I've done many, many travels before. I've never done yours. But I'm familiar with options. I'm familiar with how you can build a journey. I'm familiar with some of the consequences of choices. And so, in that sense, I can share information, but I'm not going to tell you what you do with it. The travel companion is also a person that is not ahead of you. I'm not your tour guide. I'm not telling you, today we're going to do this, and this.
It's not an excursion.
I'm more of the co-pilot. You're driving. If you don't drive, if you don't hit the accelerator and use the wheel to decide whether you want to go right or left, we don't move. I'm still here sitting with you. But if you want to start moving, you can ask me whether I can help you read the map that you should be designing. And that's just because it's hard to keep your eyes on the road and on the map at the same time. So I'm there, we said that maybe you wanted to explore this and that. Well, then turn left. Then watch out because there's going to be a bump in the road there. That is my role.
And you love it, obviously.
I really enjoy that. Some clients want to go fast and enjoy the bump, and some, pushing. Slow down. And every client has the right to make those choices. These I really like. Kind of jargon word, but it is empowering them to, now you get to drive your own car.
When we love
the difference with training, why I really love it, is that, now I get to express my opinion. Here's what I think about this topic. Here is my advice. Here are some tips if you want to move forward in that direction. And so doing these two things offers me...
Balancing both also personality traits, right?
Yes. The one-on-one...
Holding space. On the one hand, I hear a lot of holding space.
Yep.
And just being there as a companion. Yep. And on the other hand, also gentle instructional.
Yes. Sometimes even stronger. Depends on what is the topic.
Yeah.
But if it's if it's a workshop for reflection sometimes, or if it's something already planning, so to result into some action at the end of it, but it's already giving the tools and nudging, or maybe even sometimes pushing people, hey, this is the next step.
that role also comes easy for you, right? I guess.
Oh, I always know better than others what should be done, right?
Hey,
I'm just no longer arrogant enough to actually say it out loud all the time.
Very confident, but not arrogant. That's good. Hey, circling back to our central theme of today, from performance to agency. Now imagine we are able to do a video call with yourself 20 years earlier with the lived experience. You're now having a video call with yourself 20 years back in time.
Yeah.
You know, the journey was from performance to agency. What would be the thing you would whisper into the ears of your 20-year younger you?
That's an easy one. It's just whispering. The question that it took me those 20 years to ask, in a sense, which is, what do you really want? Back then, I just went with the flow. I never chose a career. I never said, I want to be this. Things happen. I was like, oh, I need money, I need a job, otherwise people are going to judge me, and then how do I pay the rent and what other things? And whatever came, I took. And I was lucky. They were interesting experiences. I grew with each of them. But it was luck. Because in the same way that I had positive experiences, not perfect, I can definitely tell stories about all of them, I could have landed in a toxic environment. Mm-hmm. Because I accepted those opportunities blindly. I thought I had to. I thought I was supposed to. That I couldn't be selfish to choose. This is given to you. It is your obligation to accept it. And so my note to myself would be say, no, you can choose. Yes, there are financial consequences for some things. But you can at least design a path from wherever you are now to wherever you want to be. I never even asked that. I was just totally random. That's why today, when people ask me what's my background, I'm like, how long do you have? I've been a teacher. So I started as a teacher at university. Then I went into research for my PhD. During the PhD, I went into policy making to Brussels. So I was, back then, there was also some policy that I'd signed, kind of. Nobody knows because it's always anonymous. But then I finished my PhD. First life crisis. Didn't know what to do. Went into these executive role, initially at the European level, then what brought me to the Netherlands as a chief executive of the World Fair Trade Organization. And all of this happened not once during all that path. So academia, research, policy making, executive roles. Not once did I ever ask, do I want this? And it's not in terms of being selfish of a teenager expression of, this is what no. It's about a mature choice, going back to the responsibility. And I sometimes play with the quote from Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. Is it? With power comes great responsibility, right? But if you also take responsibility, with great responsibility comes great power. So when you when you finally assume the responsibility for your life and your choices, you also have power. So it works both ways. And sometimes we're really afraid we would like the power, but not the responsibility. Because it means if my choices don't go the way I want, does it mean I'm failing? I'm a failure. No. So this is about rephrasing. It is your responsibility, but it doesn't mean you failed. What you attempted, your action, have not yet produced the results you wanted. Yet. But it's not a judgment on me. And I know that those attempts are meaningful because they are on the right path. So,
Natalia, thank you very much. I believe there's a lot to unpack in this conversation. Maybe one question. If someone is listening to this conversation and thinks it resonates, what would be the first question to sort of inquire, as an inquiry, self-inquiry?
I think I will have a prelude to that in saying that you are not crazy. If this resonated with you listening now, first, you are not crazy. And the second is a very powerful coaching question, which is, if everything were possible, there were no obstacles or limitations, what would you want to do now in terms of your life or career or both?
Natalia, thank you very much.
It has been a pleasure, 𝗵𝗁, and I really wish also all the success for this podcast of Journeys of Empowerment. I know it's thriving. The numbers keep going up in terms of episode, and also for you personally.
Thank you very much. Thank you for spending this time with us. Perhaps something from this conversation is still settling. A perspective, a feeling, or a question that arrived without asking permission. That's often how meaningful change begins. Stories have a way of traveling beyond the moment they are told, finding their way into conversations, decisions, and chapters still unfolding. If someone comes to mind whose path feels emotion, pass this episode on. And if the desire for more clarity, direction, and alignment has been quietly growing in the background, there's a space called the Clarity Intensified track. An open door for those moments when reflection starts asking to become movement. Until next time, take this with you gently and see what stays with you.